Hi, and welcome to freshminded.com. My name is Eric, and this is part 3 of our tire track tutorial. I'm going to start off by saving this file, save scene as. Go into our scenes folder, scene subfolder. I'm going to name this tire tracks underscore 3. Alright, we've created our bump, our texture for our ground plane, but we need to animate the bump so it looks like the tire tracks are being left by our tire as it's traveling across the ground plane. Where we're going to do that is we're going to adjust the alpha. So let's select our ground plane. Actually, let's just pull up our Windows, Rendering Editors, Hypershade. Now I have a shortcut for the Hypershade on my shelf up here. So since we're going to be going in and out, let me go and show you just if you don't know how to do that with your shelves. Here's my Hypershade. So if I just click this, it opens up my Hypershade. To add something to a shelf, just put it on a shelf that you want, or you can create a new shelf over here on the left. If you right click, or left click, just hold your left mouse button down on this black arrow. You can go and add a new shelf. You can delete shelves, and you can edit shelves. So what we're going to do is, on this shelf here, or actually I'll just go to this other. I'm going to go up to the Windows, Rendering Editors, Hypershade, but before I click on it, I'm going to press and hold down the Control button and the Shift button. So I'm holding down Control and Shift, and now when I click on Hypershade, it adds it to our shelf. So if I want to take it off the shelf, I can just go to here, go to Shelf Editor. I'm just clicking on the left mouse button, Shelf Editor. Now I got some tabs up here. The left one is Shelves, so I can go to the other shelf, Shelf Contents. There's a Hypershade I just added. So if I want to, I can delete it. I can move the position, but I'm going to go ahead and delete that. Save shelves. You can even change the icons from right there. So it just makes it a little bit easier. From here on out, I'm just going to use my shortcut. Alright, Hypershade. Here's our ground texture. So I'm going to click on it. Click on the input connections. Okay, there's our snow file. Here's our bump file. And it's kind of hard to see what this one is, so I'm going to rename this. I can right click on it and just rename it and just call this bump file. And I'm going to rename this one snow file, just so I can tell what they are a little bit easier. Okay, we want our bump file, so I'm going to double click the bump. Open up the attributes for it. Over here in the attribute editor, if you don't see this, just look at the top and you'll see the 2D placement node. So just make sure it's on the bump. So if you clicked on this bump file and you saw your placement node, the attributes, just look at the top and switch it to bump file up there. Alright, scroll down, you'll see a section that says color balance. Expand that section. You're going to see alpha gain. Alpha gain is what we're interested in. I'm going to minimize my Hypershade. Alright, we already know if I render this out, it's going to render out with the bump on there. If I take this alpha gain and I take the slider all the way to the left and make our alpha 0, we render this out, we should get no bump whatsoever. So we've got no bump now. There's no bump on our ground plane. Alright, and now that I'm thinking about it, we never really did a texture map on this. So just to make sure everything goes on there correctly, let's select our ground plane. Let's go to our polygon menu set, go up to Create UVs, Planar Mapping, Options box, Edit, Reset Settings. Our ground is facing the Y direction, so we'll make sure we project from the Y axis. Click Project. And that's just going to make sure that our textures go on there correctly. Alright. Now also keep in mind that this ground plane is square. Okay, so let's go back to my Hypershade. Here's my bump file. Here's the attributes for it. There's our alpha gain. We want to control the animation of our bump by using the alpha of that bump file. The way we're going to do that is the far right, you'll see a button with a checkerboard. Just click on that button, and from this list we're going to select ramp. You'll see some colors here. If you click inside this, you can create new colors. If you want to get rid of colors, just click on the boxes on the right hand side. And if you want to change colors, just click on the circles. So you can click on a circle, then you go down here with the selected color swatches, just click on it, and now you can change the color. Alright, we only want 2 colors, so I'm going to get rid of everything except 2 colors. You can move colors around by dragging the circles. Let's make one of the colors white and one of them black. So let's make the top one white, the bottom one we'll make black. Right now there is a smooth transition between the 2 colors, so I'm going to go up to this interpolation, change it from linear to none. That's going to give us a sharp transition. Alright, so everywhere it's white, we should see the bump. Everywhere it's black, we should not see the bump. So it's like white is a value of 1 for the alpha, black is a value of 0. And we can animate that going across our ground plane by animating this line right there. And if you notice right down below, you'll see the selected position changing. So that's what we're going to animate. We're going to set keyframes on this selected position right here. Alright, so let's go ahead and do a render, see what our bump looks like. Okay, so if you look on here, we've got no bump here. That's because the value is black, 0, and we've got bump up here because the value is white, which is 1 for the alpha. Alright, we want to reverse that because we want our tracks to come from this end, not from this side over here. So let's reverse our colors. I'm just going to drag the colors past each other. So I'll bring the white to the bottom. Let's do another render. Now we can see we've got our bump, which still looks like it's sticking up rather than sunken in, which is really weird because when we zoom in, it looks the other. It could just be an optical illusion. Okay, that does look like it's sticking out to me, so I'm going to reverse that. Let's keep that image there. Open up my hypershade. I'm going to go to my bump node, and I'm going to change the bump depth to a negative value. So I'm just going to put a negative, so it's negative 0.02, and let's re-render that. Okay, much better. So that looks like it's sunken in now. That's what we want right there. I think it's just an optical illusion. Yeah, I think it's just an optical illusion because even when here, if I look at it the right way, it looks like it's sticking up. So, alright, let's keep moving on. I'm holding up now, chasing a rabbit. Let's start animating that trail. What we're going to do that is, let me pull up my hypershade back up. And I want that ramp. So I'm just going to click on the ramp now. And with our tire, I'm just going to scrub forward on our animation by just left mouse dragging my down here in the time slider. Just clicking my left mouse button and just dragging it until my tire is just slightly past the beginning. So right there. So I want my bump map, I want the treads to look like it's just barely onto the ground surface, like maybe right there where my cursor is on the ground. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this tire, I'm going to put it on a layer, I'm going to hide that layer, pull the attributes from my ramp back up, and I'm just going to adjust this value down here until it looks like the treads are just barely onto this ground plane. So let's go ahead and do a render. Okay, it's on there, but okay, actually that's not bad right there. That's probably going to work. Might even make it a little bit less. I'm going to change my render setting, make this smaller, 64 by 480. It's a little big. Okay, so 0.017. Let's try 0.016. And I'm going to back it up just a little bit more, 0.015. Just trial and error. Okay, so my tire is sitting right there, and this tread stops right underneath the tire, so that's exactly what I want. So right here where my time slider is, I want this value to be 0.015. So I'm going to put my cursor over the words that say selected position. Once my cursor is on top of those words, I'm going to right click and select set key. So now that just tells Maya that when our animation is at frame 10, to make that value 0.015. Now let's bring our tire back and let's move our animation forward until our tires. I don't want it to be right there because I can't tell if my tire track is past it or right there on the edge. So I'm just going to back the tire up a little bit. So now I want my tire tread to be almost to the end but not quite. So now let's go back to our hypershade, pull up our ramp, and let's change this value now until it's almost to the top. So let's go and do a render and see where it's at. We need to hide our tire because we're not really going to see where it's at. Okay, I'm going to move it just a little bit forward, maybe just a tad bit more. So pull up my attributes of my ramp again. Let's make it maybe 0.99. Let's see what that does. Alright, so that's not bad. I kind of like that. I think that's probably about where the center of that tire was as it's sitting there. So now we do the same thing. Put your cursor over the word selected position, right click, and choose set key. So now if we bring our tire back and we animate this, here, let's check at the beginning, and then we'll check it in the middle, and then we'll check it in the end. So if I start the animation right here, let's do a render. You can see looks like our tire left some tracks, and the bump is following along with the tire really nicely right there. Let's check it in the middle. Alright, still looks great. And let's check it at the end. Actually, probably back it up just a little bit. So it looks great at the end. So that's how we've animated our bump. So all we did was use a ramp to control the alpha of our bump file, the color, or that file texture. Alright, let's go ahead and save this. And the only thing we have left now is to create the depression or the indentation that the tire leaves as it goes across our ground plane. That's really easy to do, but I'll go ahead and stop this video here. So let's do a save, and I will see you in the next part where we will create that and do our final render it out into a movie.